Hi, everyone. I am Samira. This is the Day Zero podcast. Do you like the podcast name?
Yeah, it's great.
This podcast is all about early stage founders, investors, and startups. I'm Samira. I used to be a software engineer. I last worked in San Francisco. I worked for a crypto company. Quit my job to, go into startups and entrepreneurship after a stint of traveling. I'm currently in Toronto doing this incubator program put together by Antler VC, which is a global venture firm fund that invests in really early stage founders. One thing I had on my agenda, but this passed, was that I did a pitch earlier this week, a pre-investment committee pitch. However, there's another pitch I'm working up to, which is the 10th week pitch, where Antler will decide if they want to fund my startup or not. So that's a little bit about me. And my guest today is an expert in public speaking, presentations, pitching. So we're really fortunate to have you here, Will.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Samira. It's really my favorite thing to talk about, which sounds weird because it's a very niche thing. Yeah. But I love looking at how a founder tells their story and what makes it compelling, not just for investors, but also for customers or for anyone like wanting to work with them, a partner or some kind of client, some kind of anyone who can make your business go forward.
Right.
The way you talk about the business and yourself to them is such a key differentiator between people who make it and people who don't. And I just love looking at the minutia of that from a communication and storytelling perspective.
Amazing. And then do you want to do a full intro?
Sure. Yeah. So I come from an acting background. I started acting when I was 7 years old, and I did an American feature film right out of the gate. The first audition I ever went up for, my parents signed me up for this audition because they came from the business, and I happened to get this big lead in an American movie, and it kind of kickstarted this childhood acting career. Wow. And so I kept doing it all the way through childhood. And I was on a TV show called Screech Owls, which was on YTV, and I played the lead about a hockey team that solves mysteries, and I did a bunch of Disney Channel stuff, and I thought, oh, great, I'm going to be an actor. This is my life now, right? Like, this is my career. I have a career, and I'm, 12 years old. But it wasn't for me. I slowly realized after a number of things over the years, few things happened to me, which we can get into. And I basically had a crisis of identity where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I quit acting and traveled the world, I think a bit like you did. And then I found my way to entrepreneurship through English teaching. And I realized, okay, I can, hustle for clients and build up a business around myself. And then I actually co-founded a startup in China with some other English teachers. So that was my foray into entrepreneurship. And when I came back to Canada, I realized, I can use acting, teaching, and this newfound entrepreneurship and kind of create public speaking coaching for entrepreneurs. And so that's what I do now. And I work with Antler, I work with 111, Techstars, DMZ, Google for Startups, Founder Institute. And I love working with early stage entrepreneurs because, you guys are amazing at what you do. And you're so, brave to do this. It's really not an easy life to choose. Yeah. And the fact that you're doing it means you care about something very deeply. Anyways, go ahead. I was going to go off on a tangent.
Just to your point about you had this background in acting and then you decided you want to do something different, but you still kind of pieced together all these skills and experiences to where you are now, right?
Yeah.
And I think about that often. I don't think I have figured out my exact path or mission yet.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to create a venture scalable startup because that's a whole other thing versus bootstrapping versus just creating a business, right?
Lifestyle business.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't exactly know. And then I have this background of life and experiences and career, and I'm trying to figure out a way to essentially kind of what you did, how I can piece everything together. So the puzzles come together.
Sure.
And it makes sense, and it's satisfying. It seems like you arrived at that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, certainly I feel like I found my thing, which is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think until you find your thing, you're going to feel a bit like anyone, not just you, but until somebody finds their thing, it always feels like a bit of a slog through the mud.
Yeah.
And then once you find your thing, it's like you're running on concrete all of a sudden.
They say that success is like the most necessary component did I say success? Sorry, I meant focus is the most necessary component of becoming successful.
Yeah.
But focus you need a prerequisite of like
For
knowing
sure.
exactly what you want. And that is like almost harder than like,
Totally.
carrying out the actions.
It's easy for me to do what I do because I found the thing that I know I can focus on. Before that, I could never hold a job.
Yeah.
And the good thing about acting was you just go on a TV set for a while and then you can leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different every day. If you're on a TV show that runs for a long time, it can, get a bit boring. Or if you're in a play that's like going on, for a long time. But in general, it's pretty varied.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of different, you're never with the same people for too long. You're never in the same place for too long.
Mm-hmm.
So that appealed to me. But outside of acting, I could never hold down a job.
Yeah.
And when I found entrepreneurship, I was like, oh, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
This appeals to my kind of sense of variety. But in my first startup, it wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
It wasn't my thing. I was a co-founder, but it wasn't really my vision. It wasn't really something that made me as excited as this is, which I'm like, okay, yeah, as you said, these are some puzzle pieces for my life that I've managed to piece together to create something cohesive.
Yeah.
And I can talk about it all day. I can just get excited. I like learning about it. I like coaching people. And I'll do all the shitty things like accounting and, the operation, the processes, all that shit that I hate. I'll do it because it's in the service of this thing that I really love.
That makes
and
sense.
so, I think until you find that, you're never going to want to do the shitty things.
And how do you find that?
Good question. So I found mine by accident.
Okay.
And I found mine by putting myself out there and by quitting the easy path.
Mm-hmm.
So acting was the easy path. My family came from acting. My older sister was an actress.
Mm-hmm.
I had a career. I had an agent. I had
Can I ask?
Yeah, please.
What age was it? I recall from your story, you went to like one of the best acting schools. I'm not sure if they're called.
It's called a theater school, but for acting.
So is that like your early 20s? Is that when you make the decision to like not continue pursuing that career path?
Yeah.
Was that like your semi-existential crisis?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
So I went to theater school at 19, graduated at 22, I guess.
Okay.
3-year program. And I spent a year acting and just living. I went to school in Montreal and I stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a great gig right out of school. I got the lead in a play that was awesome. Great French-Canadian playwright and director. It was in English. It was translated, but it was a really awesome project. But I was so unhappy. I was like, why aren't I enjoying this? Again, there's lots of reasons. My mental health wasn't great at that point. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say was I not happy because of my mental health or was this really not right for me? I think, both, right?
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, I knew I had to get out somehow.
And was there a period where you had these gut feelings, but you didn't listen to it, or you got persuaded by outside voices that said, no, you have your entire career set, you just finished theater school, no, what you're feeling is not legitimate in terms of just leaving.
Yeah, to be honest, it was actually my own voice in my head telling me to stick with it because some people were saying to me, I remember a friend of mine said to me, he's like, you can't quit acting. You're too good.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh. And that was a nice thing to say to somebody, right?
Yeah.
But I remember being like, that made me think, oh, well, if I'm good at it, maybe I should just do it.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not all you need. It's just to be good at something. Now, here's a practical answer to your question, which I've discovered later.
Okay.
Do you know about Ikigai?
I do. I've tried to read. I didn't do background research on this book, but I did pick a random book from this London marketplace when I was there on Ikigai, and I read it. Yeah. And I've read lots of books of the similar nature. Sure. Even some Stoicism stuff. Mm-hmm. So yes, I have read it. Yeah. It hasn't clicked and nothing's clicked for you. It hasn't led to a paradigm shift or something. But you read Ikigai? Yeah, I read about it and it explained what happened to me by accident. Okay. So I don't know that it didn't work for me to find my purpose, but it helped to explain my purpose after I stumbled across it. And so for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically what you can be paid for, what you're good at, what you love, and what the world needs. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of business people take out that last one. They just go what you're good at, what you love, and what people will pay you for. Yeah. But I think what the world needs, most people do get a sense that if they're doing something that the world doesn't need,
it's a bit unfulfilling.
Yeah.
Some people are fine with that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not judging that because, we're all different.
Yeah.
But I need to feel like what I'm doing is actually something that's good for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helped describe the way I see my thing is I'm good at public speaking, coaching, explaining how to get better at it, explaining how to tell your story, explaining how to speak with more confidence and clarity.
Yeah.
The market has validated it, so I know I can get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it, as
Yeah.
I've said before. But I also feel like the world needs it.
Yeah.
And that is validated a lot from the market. A lot of the times when I tell people what I do, one of the most common responses is, oh my God, so many people need this. And that's such a good
Yeah.
feeling,
Yeah.
So that's really nice. That keeps me going a lot of times too. So I can't say that studying Ikigai will help you find your purpose, but it is a good framework to test when you have found it if it's right.
Perhaps I need to pick up a more reputable book on the topic and revisit.
Yeah, I don't even know if I read a whole book. I think I just read about it online and I saw that Venn diagram.
That makes sense.
Well, that's it. And so I think there's nothing like real world experience over books, but
that's true.
It is a good way to think about it. And it's also a good way to think when you found something that you're a little lukewarm on.
Yeah.
You may look at the 4 quadrants and go, oh, this is why it doesn't feel right. It's because this one's missing.
Yeah. I want to ask
Mm-hmm.
you, pivoting a little bit to tech. So how'd you go from, a background in acting, theater, is it called Hollywood? Anyway, that whole thing. Hollywood is that place.
Yeah.
All right.
Whatever Toronto's version of Hollywood is.
You can see how ignorant I am when it comes to these topics. But anyway, how did you find yourself, because you primarily work with tech founders and entrepreneurs now.
Yeah.
How did you find that is the segment you want to serve? Because that is your primary.
It is. Yeah. And it's something I also struggle with too. I may have found my thing, but I still struggle with who I want to serve.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Right now, I feel very grateful and very inspired to serve tech founders, but I'm not.
And we really need it.
Yeah. That's the other thing. So with tech founders, there's a massive need.
Yeah.
You guys are fucking brilliant. You guys do things that is magic to me. I can't understand most of what you guys accomplish. And the missing piece is often the storytelling.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, you've really thought about your market. You've really thought about the product that your market needs. You've really thought about how to scale this thing. You thought about the business side of things. You thought about the team that you need to assemble to get it done.
Yeah.
But nobody's investing in you.
Yeah.
Or you're not convincing enough clients so that you can grow as fast as you need to.
Yeah.
You're not getting the traction you need to then convince investors. So there's something missing. And usually what I find is it's the storytelling ability.
Yeah.
There's a founder right now who said that his mentors are telling him that the reason they're not investing is because he's too boring. And it was awful. It's an awful thing to hear. And there's that, in the VC startup world, people are really blunt.
Yeah.
But the problem with the mentors who aren't me or people like me is they don't know how to correct the problem. They can just identify the problem.
They stress the same thing to us at Antler during these 7 weeks. And if you've never been in an environment that is venture-esque, you just have this misconception that the key to creating a successful early stage startup is creating a great product.
Yeah.
And then people will love it, and then that's how it happens.
And they'll find it. If you build it, they will come.
And it's not like that at all. I mean, especially over time now, as the building portion becomes so much more easier and accessible for everyone with no-code solutions.
Yeah,
with
Flutterflow and all the tools.
Yeah, with being able to just hire firms or teams in another region. Building is the least emphasized thing, and especially for early stage. The thing that is number one is, the thing they tell us is early stage investors primarily invest in the founder and who they are.
Yeah.
And that encompasses the ability to effectively communicate, tell your story, and make them believe in you.
Because they don't give you a chance to really get to know you until you've convinced them with a conversation.
Yeah.
That's the big key.
Yeah.
When you stand up to talk, I don't think people really get this unless they've studied public speaking or communication or storytelling.
Yeah.
The minute people look at you for the first time, even online, even look at your LinkedIn profile, whatever it is, they're immediately making judgments about what they think of you.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to truly appreciate that fact. But you know it when you see it in someone else. You know when you're scrolling through TikTok or YouTube Shorts or whatever, and one makes you stop. And it's somebody on a podcast, and they're talking like, who is this? Yeah. That kind of energy or passion or charisma.
Do you think, sorry to cut you off.
No, please, yeah.
But that thing, do you think is primarily like this ability to evoke emotion? Because then people essentially try to pervert it as well, right?
Yeah, sure.
By being extremely shocking.
Yeah,
or
provocative,
whatever.
Controversial.
But essentially it is your ability to evoke emotions in people.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to do when you're communicating, like centrally? Or
yes.
what is it?
No, it is evoke emotions.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you have to be intentionally offensive or provocative or an asshole or, any of those things. Okay. And what I always like to say is like there are people who abuse this power, and then there are people who use it for good. Okay. And what I like to do is teach people who don't have the power yet, but would use it for good. I like to give them the power. Okay. So the power is, how do you make somebody kind of stop in your tracks and go, wow, who is this person and what is this story? I want to listen to it.
Can you do that without, can you fake that? No. You can't. So you have to have an underlying passion that now you're just like, now you've honed the communication tools. Yeah. And if you don't have the passion, it looks fake, right?
Unless you are a super skilled salesman, but I would say, or salesperson, I would say you and I could probably both see through that.
Okay, got it.
I'll tell you a story to give you an example. Okay. When I was at theater school, a guy in the year above me had this project where they would go to Liberia in Africa and they would teach the kids theater and they would build a theater, an actual building, and then they would teach the kids theater. And he was like super passionate. He had been to Ghana and Liberia a bunch of times, and he was like, hey, maybe you should come with me. And I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I wanted to travel. So I was like, maybe I'll get involved in this thingy. And he's like, okay, we're doing this. And then we traveled to Toronto for this kind of field trip from Montreal. And he's like, I'm going to give this speech. And he's like, would you give the speech? And I was like, yeah, great. And I gave the speech, but I was nervous and I wasn't very effective. I could see the people in the crowd looking at me going, okay. And I think back to that a lot because now I'm a public speaking coach but I was like, it wasn't my thing. Yeah. And that was the disconnect. I'd never been there. I didn't actually know much about the problem. I liked the idea of it, but I wasn't connected to it. There was nothing personal about it for me. It wasn't my idea. It wasn't based on my experience. I didn't really know anybody there. So I was just talking theoretically. Okay. Hey, in this place, these kids have been, through war and art therapy is a great way to help them, blah, blah, blah. That's all true. But there's no personal connection. Okay. So I didn't do a very good job. But I'm a trained actor. If anybody should be able to sell it, it should be me. Yeah. So that's I think a perfect example. Is because it wasn't my passion and I didn't have any way to connect to it. Ultimately, it was probably a good speech, but it wasn't great.
Can I ask you about Toastmasters?
Sure.
Because I only attended one Toastmasters session ever. It was most recently a few months ago. But I made a couple friends from just attending this one session. So Toastmasters is primarily focused on taking arbitrary topics and then honing the skill. Yeah. And I had a friend that I became friends with from this group. And whenever we would talk, because he had done this for 4 years, the way he talks is very performative. Even when we're having coffee, it doesn't come. And then there was someone else as well, in this cohort, who I didn't know did Toastmasters, but identified that as their mode of communication. Yes. And then I come to find out they had done Toastmasters for years.
There you go.
So what is your opinion on Toastmasters?
I hate it.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I should say this. Between Toastmasters and nothing, you should pick Toastmasters, right? Because it's something.
It's something.
It's an opportunity to stand up in front of strangers. Well, they can become friends, but it's an opportunity to stand up in people and go through the motions. Yeah. But just like if you're any kind of teacher, right? If you're a personal trainer, I actually got into an argument on LinkedIn with this lady recently, which is so funny. It's the first LinkedIn argument I've ever been in. And it was in the AI articles that you contribute to get the community badge. Yeah. So she was calling me out and she was like, hey, Will, because I was like, for God's sake, stay away from Toastmasters or something. Yeah. And this lady was like, hey, Will, have you ever been to Toastmasters? Yeah. And she was obviously a big fan or associated with them in some way. And it was hard to reply directly to her in this article or whatever, but it was such a funny argument we were having. And basically I was like, okay, here's my experience with Toastmasters.
Yeah.
I've never attended them, but I've studied them very closely when we were starting our company, and I had a lot of customer interviews with people who came out of Toastmasters or worked for Toastmasters.
Yeah.
And I've had who knows how many clients, like easily over 50 clients who have gone through Toastmasters.
Yeah.
And I consistently see exactly what you say. Fake, overly performative, robotic delivery that does not make me happy or excited or connected to that person at all.
Yeah.
One of the first cohort of Techstars Toronto I did with, the guy I had some of the most trouble working with was a former Toastmaster because he thought he had it all figured out.
And you know what else is interesting with Toastmasters is like people don't, you know, like I'm a person who's constantly seeking to evolve and grow. So I would think I would eventually I should graduate out of Toastmasters pretty fast.
Yeah.
But from like I guess my short experience of meeting people there, they will stay in the program even after they've learned the basic skills.
Right.
They will go for years and years, and then their entire mode of like communication like just changes. It's so strange.
Totally. Yeah.
And like you said, it's very superficial in the sense that it's completely detached from passion, authenticity.
That's right.
And then I guess
it becomes about the performance, as you said, which is not the right way to think about it.
Yeah. Which I guess for certain roles and certain professions, it could be effective. Or even, you would argue even against that, right? You could be a better salesman or a marketer.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, this also comes down to preference.
Yeah.
Some people are impressed by a certain type of performative communication. I hear some people speak and I go, I would never buy from that person in a million years.
Yeah.
And then some people buy from them.
That's true.
So there is a preference thing here, for sure. But my personal preference, and so the way I try to teach and the clients I look for and the audience I try to build and the community I try to build is about people who would value authenticity over presentation polish.
Right.
Like honest over good, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's say I do want to improve my skills as a communicator, pitcher, public speaker. What do I do then instead of these programs which will maybe enable the formation of bad habits? What's the best way to develop these skills?
It's a really good question. So I recently put out a thing on LinkedIn which was like the ultimate guide to public speaking for free.
Okay.
And so in it, I put voice exercises. So start with the voice. Okay. The voice is one of the easiest, quick ways you can enhance any delivery of the message. And the Toastmasters message would kind of be like, start with the voice by like speaking in a public speaking-y way. That's not what you want to do. You want to strengthen the instrument. By focusing on singing instead of public speaking, voice strengthening, you're literally just strengthening your lungs, your intercostal muscles, you're helping open the throat and letting the jaw relax.
These warm-up exercises, they're beneficial. They're not just like some like...
They seem ridiculous. They're so
like
beneficial.
Inconsequential, but they're not. They're super significant.
It's like saying, why would I skip rope to become a better boxer?
Okay. All right.
Right? If you didn't think about it, you'd look at a boxer skipping rope, you're like, what are they doing? That's not boxing.
Yeah.
But it's like a foundational conditioning exercise. It trains their ankles to be really fast. It gets their lungs going. It loses body fat. It trains their stamina.
Okay.
So singing is like that. Singing is like running or boxing. Like running is for soccer or whatever. And there's these great vocal coaches on YouTube that you can they put these wonderful follow-along warm-up videos. Okay. And they'll explain, like, if you're doing this, then you're cutting off your airflow, so you want to drop your chin. And, you learn so much just about the mechanics of the voice.
You know, from the workshop that you did here at the office, you taught me how to breathe from my stomach. Or diaphragm, whatever they call it. And I've been doing that since.
That's so awesome.
Every time I walk or... anytime I have like a mindful moment, I try to always like breathe down to my belly, and then
perfect.
In the morning when I go to the gym and I'm doing that, and then I order coffee, my voice is so much louder just naturally without me even trying. So
and you get that sense of like, oh my God, this works.
Yeah,
this is something.
Yeah, and
that's one of my jobs as a educator on this subject. Is part of an educator's job is not just to teach, but it's to inspire and to motivate.
Okay.
to say like, here's not only what to do, but here's why you should do it.
Okay.
So to me, the why is so important. It's like you will notice immediate benefits if you start doing this stuff.
Okay.
So you sing,
Yeah.
10 minutes a day warm up. There's one for women and there's one for men.
How long should one do this until they're comfortable with their communication style and pitching? Or do you think if you're in a public, like if you're in a profession or role where you have to always talk and present, should you kind of instill this as a daily habit?
Totally.
Yeah, okay.
And there's all sorts of different things. Like the metaphor I always use is like fitness training. You go to the gym,
yeah,
right?
I do.
If you did the same routine every day, you'd get bored, right? You'd stop going. You've got to mix up your gym routine.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong. Do you do the same routine every day?
No, I have to mix it up.
Yeah, I have to mix it up.
Yeah.
I can't just go and do the same workouts.
Yeah.
So I've got to find new ways of training, but that are based around the fundamental principles. So for me, the fundamental principles are like build muscle, work on my conditioning and work on my mobility and my flexibility. Right. So as long as I'm doing something that is improving those. And so if we look at the fundamentals of public speaking, it's your voice is strong. Okay. You're connected to your body. Okay. You are connected to your words. And you have emotional regulation. Okay. So, sorry, let's go back to like practical things to do. So you said practice these vocal exercises. Singing, and then also reading out loud.
Reading out loud.
So by reading out loud, you practice how loud can I go? How slow can I go? What's my inflection like? And you just fuck around. Okay. Like you literally fuck around and find out, as people say these days, right? It's like, what happens if I say it like this? Oh, that was weird. But you let yourself play. And that's why you have to do it alone. So you don't get self-conscious is you let yourself play in the playground of like being weird and stretching your voice and stretching your range and stretching your volume.
So if I'm just working at home, looking through my emails, I should do this exercise.
Totally.
Just reading them out loud.
Do you like reading books?
I do.
Yeah. Do you have a book on your desk sometimes?
I have a Kindle that's just
great
everywhere in my apartment.
So you bust out whatever book on your Kindle you're currently reading, take a chapter at random, and just read it out loud. Okay. I don't have anything here, but I would literally show you exactly what to do. Like, do you have notes here that I can read? I'll show you what to do. Okay, I'll read these notes.
I don't know if you can.
I'll see your handwriting.
This is from my meeting.
This from your last one?
This was a meeting we did. I was asking... I think...
Doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. I'll show you how to do.
Okay.
The biggest challenge for high-achieving women is, specifically women, what tools do you use? How do you take health into account for Seed and Series A? There's 80% males. What's unique? Unique to women, they're overthinking. They're making family sacrifices, maybe taking vacation. All of these are built into inner thought process. You know what I mean? I don't even know exactly what I'm saying. What I'm practicing is how do I take text on a page and bring it to life with my voice and the way I'm delivering it. Okay. That's the skill set we're developing. So when you're at home, it's not enough to just be like, what are the unique challenges for women? That's not getting better. That's like going onto a treadmill and walking at like 0.1 speed. Right. You're not pushing yourself. Okay. You're not building strength. You're not building awareness. You're not building skill. Okay. So we've got to push ourselves in rehearsal. Okay. To get stronger, to get faster, to get more agile. All right. Speaking is a physical act. Yeah. It takes musculature. It takes breath. It takes fucking stamina. Okay. When I did that workshop for you guys, that was 90 minutes. I was toast afterwards. I was so tired. And you should be, because if you're not tired afterwards, you're not leaving it all out there. All right. And you're cheating your audience. Right. And yourself. This seems like a easy and fun exercise. I mean, not in like I'm going to do this and adopt it and it's really easy to do. Okay, what else? So that's the voice. Okay. That's really all you need at first. Okay. And you can also use, if you have your pitch script, you can just use that. Okay. Instead of the book. But the book is great because you kind of just say random shit and you get good at bringing random shit to life. Okay. And again, so that's the Toastmasters way. It's like just practicing the voice, but it has its uses, but it's a narrow focus. That's not nearly the whole thing. So we strengthen the voice, then we have to, I don't want to say strengthen the body, we have to connect with the body. Okay. Now that can be done in a few ways. Meditation, mobility work, strength training. Oh, wow. This is serious. Dance. Yeah. The best bang for your buck thing that kind of covers everything is
Yoga?
power yoga.
Okay.
So yoga that has a strength component, that has a cardio component because you're moving, that has a meditative component, which all good yoga should, I think, and has a breath component, again, as all good yoga should.
Got it.
So you're working on your breathing, you're working on your mobility, you're working on your power, you're working on your core stability and your strength, but being able to breathe and like let air in while in stressful positions. You're working on your feet's connection to the ground. You're working on the way that the different parts of your body are connecting to one another. You're working on kinetic chains. So I tell my left hand to come off the ground at the same time as my right foot. It's just so good for body awareness, for becoming intentional with the way you move, and it translates to amazing body language and stage presence.
Okay.
So yoga.
Okay.
Fucking yoga.
So if you're up, or like if I'm up speaking publicly, so what normally happens to me is like even right before I go up to speak, my heart beat starts increasing.
Me too.
And it still happens to you.
Every time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so annoying because like it's so irrational. Like I'm raising my hand, I'm gonna go say something, no one's gonna remember it, and these are my own like colleagues, like especially at Antler when we go up to pitch to our people we know. But I have this bodily reaction, and then once I actually get up there, I almost get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So when you talk about being connected to the body, is what you're trying to achieve when you're there is mindfulness of your body as you're speaking instead of like completely losing sight of it?
Exactly, because there's two reasons for that. One is mindfulness of your body allows you to make, more connected gestures, so you're not kind of like doing things unconsciously, and you're able to be like, okay, I want to paint my words, I want to stand a certain way, I'm hunching my shoulders, let me just, come back up.
Right.
But it also sends your brain, mindfulness, paying attention to your body, your breath, your sensations, where you are in space, also works to calm your nerves and lower your heart rate.
Right.
Think about after a yoga session or a meditation. Your heart rate is so nice and slow. You feel zenned out because you've been mindful and been breathing. Mindfulness really does lower the heart rate and lower the cortisol. And I just want to point out something that you said. You said it's irrational to be scared of public speaking.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why that's wrong.
Okay.
Think about our evolution.
Yeah.
We lived in tribes of 150 people for most of our evolution.
Yeah.
Our anxiety, just like all mammals, developed to help us survive, right? You see a snake, your whole body goes, holy fuck, and you get really scared, and your adrenaline floods through your system, and you get tunnel vision, and all you're focusing on is just get away from that snake, and all the blood goes to your muscles to get you the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
So that anxiety is like an evolutionarily beneficial emotion. But think about what public speaking would have been like in that time.
Okay.
If you got up around the campfire in your cave and said, I think there's more food on the other side of that mountain, and for whatever reason people didn't trust you, they might kill you. Or they might throw you out of the cave, or your friends might be like, oh, I don't want to be near this person because they have these crazy ideas. Or your mate that you were sleeping with might be like, oh, yeah, no more. So from an evolutionary perspective, your tribe's opinion of you is life and death.
True.
So when you stand up there to speak in public, we have this deep, is my theory, we have this deep evolutionary fear of, I am about to risk my life. Literally. Now, it's not true in this day and age because nobody's going to kill you for a bad pitch.
Yeah.
But we are still cave people on the level of the brain and the level of our emotions. So it's actually very rational to have a fear of public speaking, and that's why it's so widespread. And that may seem like I'm splitting hairs, but it's a really important distinction. To realize that your fear is rational helps you forgive yourself for it and stop punishing yourself for it. When you punish yourself for an emotion, it gets worse.
It gets worse.
When you forgive yourself, it's easier to manage. That's why I bring it up.
I'm sure you've heard that public speaking is people's number one worst fear.
Yeah,
even
it's bullshit. It's not true, but it's up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bullshit?
No, it came from a Swedish study that they talked to a bunch of people with social anxiety and found that 75% of those people had public speaking. So it was like the number one of people who report social anxiety. Okay. So it's not actually a proper sample of the population. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it still is very widespread.
So you never grew up with any type of social anxiety because you were theater?
No, I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
like you would get nervous performing in front of people?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah?
I had terrible stage fright and terrible social anxiety, terrible like interpersonal at parties, talking to girls, talking to like making new friends. Oh yeah, always.
I grew up, like my adolescence was strange.
Mhm.
Oh, I guess there is one thing that explains it. Up to age 7, I was just living in different countries with my mom and sisters. Essentially, we were refugees, right? So I never went to school. I never formed like friendships that were consistent, right, and deep. So then when I entered like 2nd grade in Canada and stuff, I guess like it's very annoying how your early childhood experiences affect things.
Because you can't control it. Yeah, you don't get to choose it.
And then it affects you.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I kind of grew up like not an outcast, but not totally comfortable with people. I played basketball, which was, you know, a sport you play in front of people.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had these like split personalities where one part of me, even in a basketball game, when I would get the ball, I would get really like, I would get stage fright essentially, right?
I get the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you play basketball?
No, but I play softball in a men's league in like the D division. It's like so low stakes.
Yeah.
And every time the ball comes towards me, I go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I relate so much to that.
Yeah. So anyhow, yeah. So I guess let's see. Do I have? Yeah, I would say I had social anxiety, and I still semi do in the sense that, well, I don't know how someone would define social anxiety, but I guess one goal I like wrote for myself before I started traveling was I wanted to accomplish 2 things. One is like I want to know why I don't do the things that I want to do. Like if I set goals for myself, why I don't accomplish them? Yeah, like the exact reason, not just like some vague reasoning. And then the second was I want to eliminate any. Now I think you would say that that's not possible because of evolutionary factors. But I said I want to eliminate any anxiety when it comes to social situations. So I want to be able to go to a bar where I don't know anyone and just go make friends.
Yeah.
That's what I set for myself. And now I think on average, like in this cohort, I would say I'm more outgoing than some people.
Yeah.
But I'm still not at that level of being like where social anxiety is not an obstacle to accomplishing my goals.
Yeah. So I can only speak to my experience. But also I can tell you what I've heard from other people, especially older actors.
Okay.
So like I've worked with some pretty great veteran older actors who have been in the business for 40 years and have kind of, you know, been to the top of like Canadian theater. So it's not like it's, you know, that like worldwide fame, but like, you know, they don't have anything to prove anymore when they go on stage.
Yeah.
But they still get nerves. And so it's kind of like they're much better at dealing with them. But it just tells me that I don't think it ever fully goes away. Okay. And probably on some level that's good. Okay. Because again, there are some benefits to it. Like you do get an increase in adrenaline, which can maybe help you bring some energy.
Oh, that's true.
You know, the tunnel vision, if it's channeled onto like your message, can be useful. So it's like, yeah, and what I've learned from meditation, from all the great meditation teachers I've like watched on YouTube or listened to or whatever, they always say, yeah, you don't try to conquer your anxiety, you just make friends with it.
Right.
You welcome it. And by welcoming it in and letting it be part of you and acknowledging it but not getting sucked into it, not letting it control you, then you can use it actually. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's the key is like you'll never get rid of it. Okay. And you might not even want to if you did. You might be like, I miss it, you know.
I like that reframing.
Yeah, imagine going on stage to give your like big pitch or like giving a keynote at South by Southwest and you go on stage and you feel nothing.
Oh, that's
that would
true.
be fucked up, right?
That's
You'd
true.
be like, right? You want to feel something.
Yeah.
I think feeling nothing is really sad.
Okay, you're right.
You know, people take beta blockers or propranolol, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah.
I read this all the time on public speaking Reddit. Everybody's like, what do I take to, you know?
Interesting.
And yeah, if you have really bad anxiety and you're a public speaker, maybe that can help. But just like learn to deal with your emotions.
Okay. I love that. I'm going to reframe it as that. You're right. Because I don't want to be completely absent of emotion.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we went over the tips to, yes.
Yeah, so we've talked about voice, we've talked about body language.
Okay.
So the voice is the singing and the reading out loud. Yep. The body language is the yoga.
Okay.
You can also do whatever. Like, you can box, you can run, you can...
Just something physical.
Just something physical that helps you pay attention. What am I doing with my body? How is it moving in space?
And then, sorry,
how is it connected?
When you're in stage, do you want to pit... What are you focusing on when you're communicating?
Good question.
Yeah.
So... let's get to that in a second.
Okay,
I just want to go through the, let's say the preparation, rehearsal stuff, the training stuff before the onstage stuff. So we've got vocal, we've got body language. Now we want to go to what you're saying.
Okay.
The words.
Okay.
You want to start to write scripts.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people are like, I'm better when I wing it.
Yeah.
You think you are.
You said scripts, like not
Yeah.
point form, but like
A script.
Okay.
The reason for the script is, if you write nothing or point form, then there's always an element of thinking about what you want to say.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about what to say, you are not thinking about how to say it. And so you've got to find a way to get to a level where you almost don't have to think about what to say, or the thinking about what to say is a very small part of your energy.
That's so interesting and counter to like the assumption I had, which was like, you want to improv it because then
it'll be natural.
Yeah, and it'll be more effective. But
natural's good, right? Of course, I get that because people don't want to appear robotic.
Yeah.
But what you have to do is rehearse it enough and get good enough at being a public speaker and a storyteller and a communicator that you can both know exactly what you're going to say, or more or less exactly what you're going to say, and still find a way to be natural. That's what actors do, right?
Yeah.
Actors know their script back to front.
That's true. Actors are the individuals most in society that are able to move people, and they have scripts.
They have scripts.
Okay.
They're not making it up.
That makes sense.
They're not speaking from their passion.
Yeah.
Right? They have to know. Well, they are, because they have to find their way into the passion.
Yes.
That's the way actors work. So we can talk about that as well. But let's say we're talking about your investor pitch.
Yeah.
You come up with, okay, the problem statement, what problems do my customers have? What is my solution? How do I explain that to an investor who doesn't know my industry or the technical side of things? How do I talk about the benefits of that solution? How do I talk about the market? How do I talk about the traction we've made so far? How do I talk about the competition that I'm facing?
Mm-hmm.
How do I talk about our financial projections?
And it's worth it for you to write a script. And I only took one drama class in grade 11. And I remember memorizing a script. It's actually easier, or like it was just a one-pager. It was easier than I thought. So would you say, like, if I want to become really good at this 10th-week pitch, that I create the script, and it's worthwhile to just memorize the script, right? And then focus on delivery.
It's worthwhile to rehearse it enough that you get really good at delivering it. Then on the actual day of the pitch, you can go a little off script.
Okay.
Just because sometimes as we're talking, the words that are in our head maybe don't feel right just with what we've just said, or even the tone of voice.
Yeah.
So instead of saying like, this is a really cool thing, or there's been a significant increase, we want to be like, this is a huge increase.
Okay.
We might, you just want to give yourself that flexibility to be a bit authentic to how you want to express yourself in the moment.
Okay.
But by working on your script, and I say the magic number is 10, it's actually probably more like 20. By reading it out loud on that many times and trying to memorize it, you are training yourself to focus more on delivery rather than what am I saying here.
Okay.
And you allow yourself to be really connected to the words, the emotional connection. This is where we come to. We've got voice, we've got body language, and then emotional connection.
Okay.
So you write a script, you make sure, is this the best way to say this? And if it's not, fucking edit it.
Okay.
Language is so important. Think about marketers.
Yeah.
The difference in a sentence will be a 40% increase on sales versus, just from the way they say the sentence, the way the words are ordered. How many words? Did they use 7 words instead of 10?
Okay.
Marketers are obsessed with that. And you've got to think like a marketer when you're writing your scripts. Okay. How can I say the most powerful thing in the fewest number of words? And how can I be clear, but also create an emotion?
Okay.
That's what a marketer's job is, right? Yeah. Make it urgent, compelling, invoking emotions, and clear.
Okay.
So we want to try to learn. So if you study copywriting and study marketing, that's really important.
Yeah. Okay.
So another thing you can do is copywriting. I think it's called the Copywriter's Handbook. It's a good book.
Oh yeah.
There's some great people to follow on LinkedIn who talk about copywriting.
Okay.
Ryan Musselman, Matt Barker. Those are 2 people I follow. Adriana Tika, she's great.
Okay.
And then storytelling. How do you craft a story? Nathan Baugh, Baugh. He's my favorite storyteller on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So you start to learn about those sorts of things. Once you have your script, then you go, okay. Let's say we have the sentence, I had this once. A guy was saying 50 million people are without clean drinking water or something like that. And he stood up there and he was like, 50 million people are without clean drinking water. He had this little smile on his face. And I was like, okay. Like, let's take ourselves there for a second. And sometimes the number is so massive that we don't think about the human. So you think about how many of those people are children.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go here emotionally. We don't want to go there emotionally. We're trying to protect our energy.
Stalin quote that was like, a person dying is a tragedy, but like a million people dying is a statistic or something like that.
I think it was it's like a person who kills one person is a murderer. A person who kills like a million is a hero or something. Something like that.
That's crazy. Anyway, yeah.
So and it's so true. So if you go to the individual, this is why stories follow people, not groups of people.
Right. Okay.
There needs to be a main character or characters for people to connect to, for the audience to connect and hook in.
I read Joseph Campbell this year early last year, because I was trying to get good at storytelling. So it was great in terms of revealing the significance of storytelling. And but I didn't walk away with this is what I can do in my life right now.
Okay, so I'll give you a couple things.
Okay.
This is where I can also plug my book, because I go into this in my book.
Oh, yeah.
And I also have some posts on LinkedIn about it.
Okay. I didn't know you have a book. What's it called?
It's called Transform Your Speaking Skills.
Okay.
And it's not totally for entrepreneurs, but chapter 2 is all about storytelling for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So it's how to tell a story for a pitch.
Okay. Maybe our second episode could be me reading the book.
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
Right.
I would love to do that. But basically, first of all, here's one resource you can go to before me.
Yeah.
Christopher Vogler was a Hollywood writer, and he's kind of responsible for bringing the hero's journey to Hollywood.
Oh, yeah?
Because he took a writer's class, and then he was working at Lucasfilms, I think.
Yeah.
Or no, he was working at Disney, and then he saw that George Lucas was using the hero's journey for Star Wars. Anyways, he wrote a 7-page memo that went viral before the internet in Hollywood in the 80s, I think.
Okay.
Where he's like, these are the points of the hero's journey. And so it's 7 pages, and it walks you through the whole thing. I wrote an article on LinkedIn called The Hero's Journey Condensed. Now, it's not going to be as good as Christopher Vogler, because, I wrote this years ago, but it shows you what is the 3-act structure form of the hero's journey.
Okay.
So this is the structure I teach.
Okay.
There's a problem, there needs to be a solution, and then there's a prize.
Okay.
So this maps onto the hero's journey. You need to understand a bit about the hero's journey to know what needs to be included in those 3 sections. But basically, with the problem section, think of that as Act 1 of your story.
Yeah.
You need to establish, what is the status quo? That's the first thing you establish. Where are we right now?
Yeah.
So you think about a movie. Do you like Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Harry Potter, the status quo is his parents have been murdered.
Yeah.
And he's growing up with this shitty family, his aunt and uncle and cousin, who treat him like shit.
Yeah.
And every day kind of sucks, and he's an outcast, and he just
Voldemort wants to kill him.
But before you even know that, that's the status quo.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Then there is, and also we call that the ordinary world, where we start. The hero's journey is also very famous for having an ordinary world and a special world. That's very important. The ordinary world is where the hero leaves from to go into the special world, but then they also return to that ordinary world. That's very important. It's a circle, not a line.
I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings
exactly.
as well, where Bilbo Baggins leaves his... and then
leaves the Shire and comes back to the Shire. Lord of the Rings is perfect to study the hero's journey from. So, let's say we stay with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Or do you want Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter? Which one is better for you?
Lord of the Rings.
Okay, let's do Lord of the Rings. For all the Harry Potter fans, I'm sorry, we're going to go to Lord of the Rings. So let's take actually the first one, Frodo.
Yes.
So after the Hobbit, after Bilbo, Frodo is living in the Shire. He likes a quiet life.
Yeah.
But then Gandalf comes and goes, you need to take this ring to, I think he sends him to Rivendell.
You know what's crazy? First. Even you just recollecting the story of the Lord of the Rings, it gives me chills.
Yes.
The story is so
good.
Yeah.
And it because it follows this structure of epic, this happens and then that happens. And it's so high stakes for Frodo because he's not built for this special world. He's built for a quiet life in the Shire. That's why he's such a good main character. And Sam and the hobbits are such good characters, is because they're built for this quiet, peaceful life. And then they have to go into the most horrific, violent conditions.
Yeah.
And so them persevering through that, it makes us root for them so much.
Yeah. And it feels relatable, even though that's like a complete fantasy land. But everyone in like some capacity can relate to like that calling or like leaving comfort or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's universal.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of like growing up.
Yeah.
You got to leave the comfort of your home and go make something of your life.
Yeah.
So the hero's journey also maps onto our lives very well.
Yes.
So there's the ordinary world and the status quo that you establish, and then there's the call to adventure.
Yeah.
Or you can also kind of call it the inciting incident sometimes. Yeah. And in The Lord of the Rings, the call to adventure would be Gandalf coming to Frodo and being like, you got to take this ring, to Rivendell and keep it safe because people are coming to try to steal it, the evil people. Now, in the hero's journey, there's a refusal of the call, but I don't put that in the condensed version.
Yeah.
Basically, in the hero's journey, they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And then finally they get condensed. So in the problem story that we're telling, you establish the status quo and then you establish the call to adventure. So the way I map that onto a business is the status quo is like, this is what our world is like now for these specific people. Now, who's the main character of our story? We should establish that. Is it us or is it the customer?
The customer?
It's the customer. This is when you're telling an investor story or a sales story. The customer is the main character. Because they're the ones who are paying. If the person paying doesn't see themselves in the main character, doesn't put themselves onto the main character, then they won't care. Now you can tell a story about yourself, but you have to be from your customers. So for example, if you're making stuff for doctors and you were a doctor that had the problem that you're solving for doctors, tell that story because then your customers will put themselves in there. But if you're a salesperson who started a company for doctors, that's maybe not the best story to tell. Or you've got to make the main character of the story your customers, either by them relating to it or literally it being one of them of the story you tell. Or you go, everyday doctors have to blah, 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 blah. So that's the status quo of the ordinary world. Then the call to adventure is some kind of like problem. Like what's the problem? Why is this ordinary world wrong or bad or shitty in some way? Why do we have to solve it, right? That becomes the opportunity for a solution. There has to be a problem, right? Otherwise, there's no business. Nobody's going to pay for something that doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
The solution is your company, what you do, your service, your product, your app, whatever. In the solution, you're now in the special world. You've crossed the threshold. So you have to paint for the customer what it's like in your special world once they adopt your solution. How does it work? What are the steps that they take to onboard? What are the features of it? What are the benefits of those features? What are some possible objections they might have? And that's where we want to spend the most time because like in a hero's journey, in a movie, Act 2 is the biggest act. Act 1 and Act 3 are smaller. Act 2 is like 50% of the movie. So we've got to spend a lot of time in this. And in your investor pitch, part of this is also like, here's our traction, here's our financial projections. That's all kind of part of the solution for the investor. And then once we move through the special world, we understand what your product is, how it works, the benefits, we've handled the objections. Then we get to the prize, which is like, if you do go through all this, what do you get? Not the benefits, the deep life change, the transformation. Yes, it's a faster customer service tool, whatever your thing is. I'm not saying that to be pejorative, but whatever it is. But the people who use it, how does it make their life noticeably better? And then maybe the industry, how does this change the industry? How does this have some bigger impact? Because a lot of investors want to feel, again, like we were talking about with the Ikigai, what the world needs, the fourth thing. A lot of people have that desire to be part of something big. And that's where the big story can come in, is the prize. If everybody adopts the solution, or if enough people adopt the solution, then all of their lives will be better, and maybe even the industry and the world will be better for it. And then that's where you leave the story. So the customers have discovered their problem, they've gone through the solution, and then they've come back home to the ordinary world, but forever changed with a prize, forever better. They found some kind of treasure. In the hero's journey, we call that the elixir. So the elixir is that amazing life achievement dream outcome your customers are looking for.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
You didn't even pitch a particular product, but I'm like bought into it.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
whatever it is, give it to me.
I want that.
And that's the power, I think, of the storytelling is that anything can be told like that.
Yeah.
If you just find the right framing of it.
Okay.
And if you don't believe that your company can fit onto that story structure, then it's probably not a great company.
Okay.
Right? It's a good way to test.
Got it.
If there's no way to tell that story in an exciting way,
Okay.
maybe it's not a very good company.
Okay. I'm gonna like take this clip segment and like rewind it and like listen to it as I create my pitch deck.
Yeah, I hope it's not too much. I hope it's not too long-winded.
No, it's great.
Okay, cool.
So our camera memory ran out. We're not sure at what point.
We burned it down.
But I think we're definitely going to do a follow-up episode,
Would love to.
hopefully, because
Yeah.
I want to read your book.
Okay, cool.
And then I want to apply it, and then I want to ask you follow-up questions.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know you have to go. So thank you so much for joining me and sharing all your wisdom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And if you want to stay connected with me and learn the kind of stuff that I post about, following me on LinkedIn is like the best way to do that.
Great.
At Will Greenblatt. And the main thing I try to do is post every day about public speaking. Most of it is geared towards tech founders, but I do want to have some stuff in there that helps pretty much anybody who has to tell their story. But yeah, it's usually focused on startup founders. So.
I love your posts. They're really authentic
thank you.
And really helpful. So I'll put your links below.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you
that.
so much.
Thanks, Samira.
All right.
Thanks for watching.